Russian Kamikaze drone tried to destroy the Abrams tank in Ukraine. This event is the most popular among military experts. You'll be surprised to see who wins in this unforeseen confrontation between ground and air vehicles. Did the drone succeed in fulfilling its explosive and destructive mission, or did the Abrams manage to outwit and destroy the enemy? I'll tell you about the incredible battle tactics used by modern drones and tanks so that you can understand what's really going on in these confrontations where human lives are at stake. To begin with, let me introduce you to the participants of the fight. The Russian Scalpel Kamikaze drone is an advanced weapon designed to engage armored targets with high accuracy. These drones are equipped with advanced guidance systems, including optoelectronic and infrared sensors, which allows them to effectively detect and attack even well-protected targets such as Abrams tanks. The tanks have just recently arrived in a small batch in Ukraine and have already entered the battle. This is a legendary combat vehicle known for its powerful armor and the best performance in modern warfare. It has a 51-inch armor, a speed of almost 43 miles per hour, and the power of a huge 120mm cannon. All this is put together by the best engineers. It's a battle between real professionals, and I'm sure you'll be impressed by the outcome. The battlefield where this epic confrontation took place is located in a strategically important area in eastern Ukraine. This is an area where every square foot of land is important when it comes to tactical aspects. Ukrainian troops are strengthening their positions, realizing that holding this area would give them a significant advantage in future operations. For Russia, control of this region would mean the possibility of breaking through the Ukrainian defense line and further advancing into the country. The Ukrainian side realized that the success of the operation largely depended on deterring the Russian offensive forces. The Abrams tanks were deployed 1 mile from the base at a key defense position. This American combat behemoth is equipped with an active defense system that can shoot down incoming missiles and shells at a distance of 3,280 feet from the tank, and its 1,500 horsepower engine helps it move quickly over difficult terrain. In addition, its crew is armed with a portable anti-aircraft system to protect against air threats.
There's no tank out there that is more lethal, more maneuverable, more ability to provide shock effect on the battlefield.
The Russian side, realizing the power of the Abrams, was preparing a series of strikes using Scalpel drones. The tactic was simple but effective. Several drones simultaneously fly at targets, creating false signals and distracting air defense systems. The main targets are tanks, artillery systems, and command posts. Although the range is 37 miles, there are not many trajectory options, but it's enough to get to the target, flying around several air defense systems.
A combination of an artillery and a drone that has got the capabilities of both.
A tense silence reigned on the battlefield. The Ukrainian soldiers waited with bated breath for the Russian drones to come into view. They realized that any delay could cost them their lives. The commanders gave their last orders, clarifying positions and preparing artillery support in case of a massive attack. On the other side, the Russian drone operators were watching the monitors intently, preparing for the decisive moment. They knew that every second could change the outcome of the battle. The first Kamikaze drone took off, followed by several more. The decisive moment came. The Scalpel hovered silently at an altitude of 4 kilometers, rapidly approaching its target. It remained invisible to Ukrainian radar due to the deteriorating weather. The Abrams was in position, hidden behind the ruins of an old building as if waiting to be struck. Its powerful armor, reinforced by an active defense system, gave the crew confidence, but they knew the enemy was unpredictable. The warning system began to sound alarms. Something was approaching fast. The tank commander ordered all crew members to take up combat positions in preparation for a possible air attack.
It's very, very silent. It's very, very quiet.
The Scalpel went lower, scanning the target and selecting the least protected zone for the attack. But suddenly, the Abrams active defense system detected an approaching object and automatically launched countermeasures. Powerful volleys were fired in the direction of the drone, trying to knock it off course, but the Scalpel, though hit, continued to break through the last obstacles on its way to its target due to inertia. A moment later, the drone crashed into the tank. There was an explosion, smoke, and fire. A few seconds later, Abrams emerged from the smoke, damaged but not broken. It managed to take a few more hits while the other drones were shot down by air defense forces. The crater where the Ukrainian Abrams tank had been standing was a silent testament to the destructive power that a seemingly compact drone can unleash. But it was also a testament to the strength of the tank and the Ukrainian soldiers inside. For the drone operators who were sitting at consoles hundreds of miles away from the battlefield, the moment came when they realized that they had just delivered one of the most significant strikes against Ukrainian forces, but even that did not help. At the same time, the crew of the Abrams tank was shocked and disturbed. Despite all the precautions taken, the tank's innovative equipment could not fully protect them from the deadly attack. The explosion disrupted the operation of most of the systems. However, thanks to careful training and professionalism, the crew managed to get out alive, which is not the case with the tank itself. It was another lesson that even the most advanced equipment can be vulnerable to new types of weapons. The officers who survived the attack realized that they'd have to urgently adapt their tactics and consider additional measures to protect themselves from such drones in the future. This incident showed that kamikaze drones pose a serious threat in modern conflicts. The Ukrainian commanders realized that even such powerful and well-protected vehicles as the Abrams could fall victim to relatively cheap but effective drones. This case was a signal to revise defense strategies and increase investment in drone countermeasures. On the other hand, the success of the Scalpel drone confirmed the power of such military tools. Russian forces saw this attack as an example of how their methods of warfare can be quite effective.
It is a one-and-done drone.
Thus, this fight not only turned out to be an important part of a particular battle, but also became an important lesson for both sides, affecting the further course of the war and the formation of military strategies for the future. Tensions between the United States and Russia are reaching a peak as Ukraine launched a secret U.S. missile strike on Russia this week. The attack targeted one of the most important defense positions in Russia. This is why the convenient airbase has become dangerous for Russian planes, and now they'll have to fly longer distances and, accordingly, break down faster. But still, if we're talking about a missile strike, the following questions remain. How was it planned? What kind of missiles were used? How did the U.S. agree to this? Let me explain. In the context of current events, it's very important to recall the concept of the Cold War. It was a global confrontation between the U.S. and the USSR. They didn't fight directly, but they competed in everything. In ideology, in production, in weapons, and even in space exploration. At that time, both sides were actively building up their nuclear arsenals, putting pressure on each other. Both countries trained professional spies and spied on each other. Many people think that this whole affair lasted until the collapse of the USSR, but no, the Cold War is still going on. Only now it's entered a more active phase. Because of the war that began in Ukraine, the United States has the opportunity to strike directly at Russia with its weapons, albeit with the hands of the Ukrainian military, and recent events confirm this. The United States is actively supplying Ukraine with weapons, including anti-tank systems, anti-aircraft systems, artillery systems, and much more. It allows the Ukrainian army to effectively counter Russian forces. In essence, the United States is fighting Russia with someone else's hands by providing Ukrainian soldiers with the means to conduct combat operations. You can say that this is bad, but on the other hand, without the support of the Allies, it would be much more difficult for Ukraine.
But in reality, it's a weapon of war designed to destroy an enemy's capacity to fight.
At the same time, the United States and the EU imposed tough economic sanctions on Russia, which seriously affected the Russian economy. Russia is in political isolation. Many countries have reduced diplomatic contacts, which is also a clear consequence of the fact that the Cold War between the United States and Russia has entered its peak phase of almost open confrontation. The United States supports Ukraine by providing it with weapons and aid, which effectively makes this conflict an indirect war between the United States and Russia. Recently, secret information sources have disclosed that Ukraine has launched a devastating missile strike on Russian territory with U.S. missiles. A new strike was carried out on a strategically important facility at the base of Russian fighters and bombers in an undisclosed city. This news is still not covered anywhere, but we know the consequences. One of the key defense positions of the Russian Federation was destroyed, and all thanks to the accurate work of the HIMARS and its experimental PRSM missile. A similar strike occurred earlier. On the night of July 10, 2024, U.S. HIMARS systems and PRSM missiles were used to strike strategic targets in Russia. These high-precision and long-range missiles were launched from Ukrainian territory and flew 290 miles to the enemy airbase at a speed of over 2,250 miles per hour, striking several critical facilities, including command centers and ammunition depots. This forced the Russian army to redirect significant resources to protect its positions. This was the first major operation using American weapons to attack directly on Russian territory.
Once you've taken the decision to launch it, then it might be a significant amount of time before it hits its target. You might want to change your mind, but with most cruise missiles these days, you don't have that option.
The use of the HIMARS systems and the PRSM missiles was a real shock to the international community. These systems are known for their high accuracy and range, making them one of the most effective modern weapons. The HIMARS can launch both missiles and guided munitions, while PRSMs are capable of hitting targets up to 310 miles away with extreme accuracy, making them ideal for strategic strikes. These missiles can even carry cluster munitions, the impact of which would easily wipe out not just a Russian base, but an entire city.
So we recognized a need to develop a unitary type of warhead instead of the bombless that could minimize the collateral damage on the targets that we were going after.
The consequences of this strike could seriously exacerbate the already tense situation between the two countries, and the covert nature of the strike adds to the complexity, raising questions about the U.S. motives. Since both sides have a powerful military force, the risk of retaliation is high. The whole world is waiting with bated breath for Russia's reaction, and it's already known. Last time, after the HIMARS attack, Moscow immediately accused Washington of direct military aggression, which led to an escalation of the diplomatic situation. Russia has severed diplomatic relations with a number of Western countries and announced that it'll step up its retaliatory measures. The UN Security Council convened an emergency session to discuss further steps. The attack on Russian territory using American HIMARS systems and PRSM missiles was an important landmark in the conflict. This event demonstrated the readiness of the United States and its allies to provide more active military support to Ukraine, which in turn led to serious military, diplomatic, and economic consequences. The situation in the region continues to be extremely tense, and further events will depend on the response of Russia and the international community. I think it's clear that relations between the U.S. and Russia have reached a critical point, and the future is becoming increasingly uncertain. The strike also raised questions about the role of other countries in the conflict and whether they'll be drawn into the fray as the situation develops. This incident could lead to a large-scale escalation of the conflict between the United States and Russia. The latter is likely to respond to the attack, which could escalate into a direct military clash between the two nuclear powers, affecting not only Ukraine, but also other countries in the region, drawing them into hostilities. The U.S. and its allies are likely to increase economic sanctions against Russia, further weakening its economy. Russia's economic isolation may push it to develop stronger relations with China and other countries that don't support Western sanctions. The United States is in the process of strengthening its position in Europe, for example, by providing Poland with a $2 billion loan to purchase military equipment such as Abrams tanks and fighter jets. It's difficult to overestimate the impact of this event on world politics and international relations, as it can change the global balance of power. We can only wait and see. What do you think about this shocking scenario? Share your opinion in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with further news updates. I'll try to get videos out as soon as possible with the latest news, even before it hits the news feed. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.